If you like this video, please consider supporting the Oto Kano channel over on Patreon. Thank you. Hello there, how are you today? This is the first episode on my series about color theory and how I use color theory to create palettes and how that really helps me create brighter colors as well as making it easier for me to mix colors. Before I get started on talking about the palette itself, I just want to cover two things, and this video is going to cover the first issue, and that is the question about how to tell if a color is hot or color is cool. I get a lot of questions saying they don't really understand it, so I thought this would be a great time to cover this topic first, since we are going to be talking a lot about cool and warm colors in this series. If you are one of those people who find cool and warm colors just befuddling and confusing, then please don't worry. A lot of people are, and one of the biggest reason why that is because color temperature is based on perception, and when things are based on perception, differences occur across different people, and that basically means different people see color differently and see color temperatures differently. So if you've read somewhere that a particular color is warm and other color is cool and you don't feel that way, that's okay. It just means you have a different way of perceiving colors to the person who's saying it. It's a little bit like, do you remember is it a white and gold dress or a blue and black dress? And people would be adamant that it's one or the other, and how could it be possibly be the other? It's clearly gold and white, or it's clearly blue and black. It's a little bit like that. Colors are purely perception based, and therefore I'm going to cover what I feel is the warmest and coolest colors. But if you don't agree, that's totally okay. If you think I'm completely wrong, I'm probably not wrong, and you're probably not wrong. It's just that our perceptions of color is different. Color is very strange. We add a lot of emotional context to it, cultural context to it. That doesn't mean how the color actually is, such as I bet most people would say this is a cool blue and this is a warm blue. I certainly did, and it's not in terms of color theory, but a lot of us would associate a more tropical turquoisey blue cyan color sea with warm weather, and that's why a lot of us would think that's warm, whereas a more blue violety color associated with seas of very cool countries, such as the seas around here in Britain, tends to be more of this kind of blue violety color than the cyan color. So we would think that this is cool blue and this is warm blue, and until I was corrected by Ev, I totally thought that too. However, I'm going to show you why this is actually the cool blue and this is actually the warm blue in terms of color theory, and that just shows one way where we can perceive a color differently to what it actually is in terms of color theory. In saying what color is the coolest and what color is the warmest is a slight issue in that different people perceive the hottest and coolest color differently. Some people would say it's the red is the hottest or the warmest color, and the opposite would be the coolest color, so this turquoisey blue-green color. However, some people would say that orange and blue is the coolest color because they would see this as a blue being the coolest blue, and we do all associate blue with cold things, and orange with the sun maybe. And there are many variations. Some people say here, and in the 1900s some people even said that this was the warmest and this was the coolest. So I couldn't definitively tell you this is the warmest and this is the coolest because it's based on perception. All I can tell you is, having studied color theory in quite some detail, I've come to a conclusion that works for me, that makes sense for me, and that is that red is the warmest. And that's kind of easy to go by for me because we all associate red with hot. And everything else is just about how far away or how close away is it from the red, and therefore that logically makes this one the coolest color. So that's what I've come to think of as the warmest and the coolest color, even though I was confused about here at the same time. So if the red is the warmest and the turquoise is the coolest, and the further away you get from the warmest color, the color cools down. And therefore, as you move away from the red, it gets cooler. And the same up here. As you move away further from the red, it gets cooler. And then on the opposite side, if you start from the coolest color and you go this way, so you go like this towards the warmest, the colors are getting warmer gradually. And the same happens this way, where as you get closer to the red, it gets warmer. And therefore, if you look down here, it means that as you go this way, the blue over here is going to be warmer than the cyan over here. And this is where you have to kind of switch off any cultural context you've learned about color, just to get your head around color theory's meaning of warmest and coolest. Between these two colors, I can see that it has more red in here than in the cyan. And therefore, if it has more red than a color I'm comparing to, then the one with the more red is going to be the warmer color. And I can prove it to you that this color, which a lot of people think as a primary color, isn't a primary color, and it's in fact this color with a little bit of red added to it. So first we're going to have a little bit of phthalo blue green shade. And it's a nice turquoisey blue. And then I am going to grab a little bit of quinacridone rose, because that is the perfect magenta color, and start adding the quinacridone rose to the phthalo blue. And as you can already see, it's getting a lot closer to the blue on the color wheel. Add a little bit more and you get a nice blue. And that is a proof that in this color wheel, to go from here to here, you need to add red or magenta. This color is closer to red because we added a red/magenta color to it to make this color from here. And this is where color theory comes in really handy for color mixing. Is say you've run out of a warmer blue and you only have the cooler blue left on your palette, but you really need a warm blue. In that case, you look at the color wheel and go, well, it's closer to the red, and therefore maybe if I just take a little bit of the cool blue and add a little bit of red, I'll get this color. And in fact, as you saw here, you do. And this is why knowing how to use color theory to mix colors is an incredibly useful tool for artists. Future Oto here. I just finished filming this video and then I realized this diagram might be a little bit confusing, and therefore I've added more arrows to it to make it easier. So here, as you go away from the red, it gets cooler, but as you go towards the red, the color will get warmer. The warmer arrow was missing, and the same here. The further away you get from the green and go towards the red, it gets warmer. But if you go further away from the red, it's going to get cooler. So I hope this diagram makes more sense to you. I will put a scan of this up on my Patreon page so you can have a good look at it, and hopefully it will make more sense to you. I do apologize for filming the whole video without the secondary set of arrows for you. So in general, we can say that orange is cooler than red and yellow is cooler than orange, but green is cooler than yellow and yellow is warmer. But to try to figure out if a color is warm or cool beyond that kind of general grouping of yellow, orange, red, magenta, red, violet, blue, violet, and that kind of general labeling, you can get into really sticky situation, basically because color temperatures are all relative to each other as well as your perception. I know it just gets more and more difficult to fathom, which is why so many people have an issue with trying to figure out the temperature of colors. One of the questions I get asked a lot is they will mention a particular color name, say Hansa yellow, and then they ask, is that cool or warm? Is scarlet red cool or warm? And I have always avoided answering that question because there is no right answer about color temperature with just a single color. Let me show you what I mean. So here I have Hansa Yellow Deep, and we just put a big sample of it here. And we know it's kind of a yellow orangey color, but it's incredibly hard to say what temperature a color is on its own. So let's put color such as Aurelian next to it. And immediately you would say that, well, this has less red in and this has more red in. So clearly this is the warmer color and this is the cooler color. As we said here, the more red you have, it's going to get warmer because that carries on getting warmer as you go towards the red. So it's clear now which is the cooler color and which is the warmer color, and therefore in this instance you would immediately say this is the warm color. So out of these two, this is clearly the warmest. Same color here again, and then let's put permanent orange right next to it. Permanent orange has more red to it than the Hansa Yellow Deep, and therefore if we were just talking about these two pairs, we would classify this color as the cool color and this as the warm color. So this here, same color, the color will be the warmer color in this pair, whereas here it's the cool color. And this is why it's very, very hard to say if a color is cool or warm on its own, because the color temperature that you perceive depends on what other color you are comparing it to. For example, say you are looking at this color, right? It could go either way. And you're asking somebody, is this a cool or warm color? If somebody has, say, this color on the palette, then obviously because this color has more red, let's bring the color chart back. Because this color is closer to this color and this color is closer to this color, that person would say this is obviously a warm red. But what if somebody had this red in their palette and they didn't have this color? Then that person would tell you that this is a cool red because they don't have an even cooler color to compare to. And this is why people get into all sorts of problems trying to pin down a temperature of a particular color. What I would suggest instead is don't worry about the temperature of a particular color, whether that's cooler or warmer. Just compare it with your palette, get a sample, compare it with the colors you have on your palette, and figure out where it sits in your color system and in your palette, rather than trying to get somebody who you don't really know what colors they have on their palette to tell you whether it's cooler or warmer. So in general, only worry about just big color groups as to whether it's warm or cool. And don't worry about the finite details of what each color temperature is, because it's impossible to pin it down. And so don't worry too much when you see someone in a YouTube video or in a class say, oh yeah, that color is a perfect mid-red. And then you buy that tube and you take it back to your palette and it turns out like it doesn't feel like a nice mid-red for you. It just means that you and the other person has a different sets of colors holding different positions in the color wheel. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it makes more sense to you now as to what colors are warmer and cooler. And just be open to the fact that color perceptions are different. So if you start having conversations about warm and cool colors with some people, they might not agree with you. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just you guys perceive colors slightly differently. If you have any questions, do ask away in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you so much for watching this video and I will see you in the next video. Bye!